Good evening and welcome to Creating Specialty Clubs. This is a Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. My name is Lion Budwall and I'd like to welcome you this evening to the webinar and remind you that we are recording this session for those who cannot participate live or for anyone wishing to review the material at a later time. And once we begin, you may be asked to respond to a question or give us a comment, or you may have a question yourself. And this can be handled either by typing a question in the questions pane in the panel along the right side of your screen, or by raising your hand or clicking on your hand so that you can be unmuted, and then giving you the opportunity to share verbally with the entire group. Creating Specialty Clubs is course 234, an elective course for the Lions University Master's Program that's designed to help Lions lead at the district level. The Master's Program involves the completion of the 10 required courses that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, and at least 5 of the elective courses that you see on the right side. So you can see we have quite a few, 15 elective courses, and of which you only have to have 5 completed in order to complete the master's program. This is the Lions University website, lionsuniversity.org, and this slide shows a page in the bachelor's program listing the courses offered in that level. Now, the master's program page would have a similar page and similar information, but would include the courses in the master's program. And if you were to click on any of those courses listed on the page, you would then be taken directly to that particular course page, giving you all the details for that course, along with a link to register for the course and links to any course handouts and, of course, the quiz. We even have a calendar page you can click on to see what courses are scheduled in the weeks and months ahead. Now, for some of you who have been regular Lions University attendees, a lot of this information will be new to you, and it might seem kind of drawn out or boring because you're hearing the same stuff, but we have many new attendees week after week, and so we need to make sure everyone receives the same information. So we appreciate your willingness to listen to the same information, and who knows, it might help you get updated too. This slide shows what a course page typically looks like. It lists the course name and number, gives a description of the course, shows who the faculty member is, and gives you links to register for the class and any course materials. If you haven't already done so, you will have to create a separate username and password to get in to register for the course and have access to the quiz. But once you've registered and created your password, that password is good for all the courses that you take throughout your time. And after participating in the webinar or watching the video of the webinar, you can click on the Mark as Completed tab at the bottom there, shown with that red arrow, and you will then be allowed to take the quiz. Once you've taken a quiz and taken some courses, you can and submit your answers, you will be instantly be given the results of how well you did on that particular quiz. You can then click on the My Account tab, which is at the top of the page, and you see first-hand view of the courses you've completed in both the bachelor and the master level program. Now, this particular page shows a person who has taken some of the courses in the bachelor's program, and what the green area indicates that they scored 100% on that particular quiz, or if it's a 0 and there's nothing there, that shows that they have not taken that particular course yet. So this gives you an idea of where you are in your coursework. Our faculty member this evening is Lion Sharon Sykes. Lion Sharon is from Olympia, Washington, where she was just recently elected to be their second vice district governor of District C in multiple District 19. So congratulations, Lion Sharon, on your election. She's been a faculty member for the master's program earlier in the year, having presented team building back in August. Lion Sharon has also been a presenter on the district and multiple district level, as well as the USA Canada Forum, and she comes to Lions University as a well-qualified instructor with a wealth of knowledge, and it gives me a great pleasure to welcome her here tonight. So Lion Sharon, welcome, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Lion Bud. Welcome to a great and fun presentation that I hope will give you some great ideas on how to grow your membership and increase your community project outreach through the creation of specialty or special interest clubs. We're going to take a look at what you need to know in order to make this happen. We'll be looking at what we need to know to define our specialty clubs. Then we'll be looking at how do we go about identifying the value of our specialty clubs, and then what it takes to create one. And we'll look at several documents that we need to take in consideration. How do we, once we have a club created and it's up and running, how do we maintain that club? And most importantly is once it's developed, how do we ensure the future of that specialty clubs? And then we'll take a real quick look at next steps, and we'll open it up for questions. Now, I do have some spots throughout the presentation where we can stop and ask questions. If you have a question as we go along, and you will type it into the question screen on your right-hand side of your screen, Bud's going to be helping, Lion Bud's going to be helping me out, and we'll try to intercept those questions as they come through, or we'll catch them when we take a break to address questions. So as we move on to the next slide on defining specialty clubs, we're going to be talking about, to ensure you establish a successful specialty club, you need to make sure you have some key deliverables identified. First is the interest in and commitment to service. A question you need to ask yourself is, does the proposed club support Lions Club's international motto, "We serve"? What area of the community do you want to serve? Is there a service not currently being addressed by other service clubs? And who will benefit from your new club? For special interest and hobbies, is there enough interest to attract new members to this new club? Are there enough projects and activities to maintain a new interest group? And we'll talk further into the presentation on a couple different approaches that you can take to encourage members to participate. And then most importantly is the mission and vision statement. You need to document your mission statement. What is the purpose for creating a new club? Create a mission statement to start and revisit a couple of times a year to ensure there is agreement in the membership to sustain and continue your specialty club. And then lastly, but not certainly most important, is to look at, do we create a chapter or do we create a club branch? And we'll be talking about advantages in both of those as we go through the presentation. As we move to the next slide with examples of specialty clubs and specialty club branches, we'll quickly go over this slide. Type in a question in the box, examples you are currently seeing or would like to see as far as specialty clubs. Some that are very popular right now are cyber clubs. And then there's a Champions Club, and there's actually documentation in LCI to create a Champions Club. And for those who may not know online what the Champions Lions are, they're the group that does a extensive support of the Special Olympics teams, and there may be Special Olympics events going on in your community that don't currently have the face of Lions on them, and there could be a great partnership in reaching out and providing much needed support during events or ongoing supportive coaching and mentoring of our excellent champion Lions. There's also Lions Quest, educators, where we have educators coming together, school superintendents and faculty members, and creating educator-type Lions clubs. We have entrepreneurial-type clubs, those people that could be young and starting out their businesses, maybe not young in age, but young in their business setup, and they're coming together to pool resources in order to reach out and do service projects as an entrepreneurial club rather than individual companies. And then you have ethnic clubs, and what we mean by ethnic clubs is here in the Northwest we've had, and they've decided to disband, unfortunately, but we had clubs that were a Korean Sunrise Lions Club, that the members, when they came together, spoke primarily Korean, and they spoke their native language. We have Filipino clubs in Seattle area. So that's an example of an ethnic type club. First responders, again, we have a group of people, and for our first responders in the Northwest, we refer to these folks as your emergency team, the ambulances that go out, the fire department, the police department, sheriff's department, anybody that would be considered a first responder to a community need. And they'll come together and create their own service groups. And then we have medical professionals. We have hospital staffs, and you have other things. Are there any others out there that you can think of that I haven't touched on? Because I know there are a lot, and I'm opening up the chat screen here.
Yeah, Lion.
Correction officers.
Right, yeah. Lion Scott.
I just opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Bud.
No, I was going to say Lion Scott made a comment here about correction officers, and I know there's motorcycle clubs. You have to have a motorcycle to be a member. It could.
We also have educators. Well, we've just covered educators. We also have librarians that get together, and there's a group that are considering starting a Lion Service Club to enhance the educational opportunities and book availability to our people in elementary schools. So those are just some ideas of Funeral Directors Lions Club. Well, that's a unique one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing this pop up, and I wouldn't have thought about that, but why not? That would be a great group to get together and offer up, work on service projects in the community. Are there any others?
I'm sorry, you got another one, pastors, yeah.
But,
up in
that would be another good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we just keep playing tag here. Up in Chicago area, we have, they have something like 75 clubs in District 1A, which is the downtown Chicago area, Cook County. And of those 75 clubs, there must be at least 20 clubs that are considered ethnic clubs, and a lot of Korean clubs, a lot of Filipino clubs, there's a couple of Chinese clubs. So they have a lot of ethnic clubs in that area, and they are very strong clubs, and they have, they do well. They represent themselves at the district conventions, at the state conventions, and it brings in a lot of members that you wouldn't necessarily think of. I mean, they just they're wonderful clubs up there, very strong.
Well, it's a two-way street when you have the ethnic clubs. They're actually more popular than you think. Part of it is to create a service environment so that they're giving back to the community, but it also presents a tremendous opportunity for those that are not part of an ethnic club to learn about the cultures, to become part of that, and to be interested in possibly joining in and becoming part of that ethnicity that would be a sharing and a knowledge learning at the same time. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the next slide. The thing that we need to look at is what's the value? And in order to, we need to address this, especially if we're going to be reaching out to younger people in the community, people that are still in the workforce, people that have young children at home, is that we need to look at the value is we can increase membership and retention. What better way to grow your membership faster than by offering a specialty gathering to members and potential members to share a common interest and to give something back to the community? If people are interested and can see good use of their time, they will join up and continue their involvement until such time that they see their time is no longer needed or important. Involved members. We need to ensure that your new members have something to do. Create projects ahead of time, or in the first meeting, identify projects the team can work on. The great part of creating a new club or a club branch is that there really are no bad ideas. And then it also creates higher energy levels. If people are excited, they will give of their precious time and energy. New opportunities are usually loaded with lots of excitement and lots of creative new ideas. And more hands to help. As Lions Clubs, we are always looking for more hands to help with our current activities and to start those new activities that we just need additional hands to make happen. And then greater community connection. A specialty club could be in a great position to deliver support and service to a specific community need. The advantage to this is the obvious outreach, but could also provide greater Lions visibility in your local communities. And the more we're involved in the communities and the more we do our branding, the more aware people are of Lions and the fact that we are more than vision, eye care, and diabetes testing. So we move to the next slide. After we create our value statement, then we need to create and do plan and define. And it kind of goes along with what we just talked about, but we're going a little bit further. The purpose is put down in writing why you want to start a special interest club. What do you and your new members want to achieve? Why the need for the specialty club? Look at the other end of the spectrum too. Most importantly is what does done look like? What will your finished activities look like? We do a lot of defining from the front end, but we don't always define it from the end of our projects, looking back to what we want to accomplish. Need to define who our audience is. Who do you want to serve? What do you want to offer to the public, and will you offer a service currently not available? Will you increase much needed opportunities? And as far as your members, this is really important when starting up a new effort. Who are you reaching out to, and why would they want to stay? Can you support an ongoing specialty club? And how do we stay current? And we'll talk more about that last part in a future slide. The public image. As well as with all Lions Clubs, what image do you want to present to your community? An idea for a specialty club would be to offer sight and hearing exams for all local elementary students. This is a typical project for a lot of clubs, but there may be an interest by local vision eye care practitioners and doctors, active or retired, to ensure all students are attended. Many of these previous programs are disappearing from schools due to lack of funding. Things to consider when you're looking at your public image is updated websites, Facebook page, other social media, RAC cards. And RAC cards, for those of you who are just listening in, I'm spelling that R-A-C-K. RAC cards and other club promotional materials available at all events. And shirts or vests to raise your visibility. Sandwich boards, which become very popular here in the Northwest, where people driving by can see events going on. So there's many things to take into consideration. Along with creating the thing, as we move to the next slide, one of the things that we can look at is what if we want to create a new club? Well, for some of you on the phone that may not be as current with some of the requirements that we need to take in consideration, what I've listed here on this page are the LCI requirements. And in order to create a new club, we need to have at least 20 plus charter members. And let me add a note to that. And those are with dues paid. Having 20 or more charter members is really critical to sustain the club because some members may drop away after a few months. It's not what I'm saying we want to have happen, but it is life sometimes interferes. In order to ensure longevity of the club, you want to start with a very healthy foundation. So that's why the push on 20 or more charter members. You also need to have a sponsoring club. And LCI will accept a sponsoring club, a region, a zone, a district cabinet, or a district committee. But there has to be sponsorship. And as you're completing, you also need to complete your charter application. And I put in some numbers out here that if you want to go out to LCI International and enter in TK-38A, it will automatically take you to create or complete charter application. And also a report on the charter members. So you'll have to provide LCI a complete list of all the original charter members to ensure that that you have the health that you need in order to sustain. Now keep in mind the report on charter members will have all those members that have paid their dues and they are active, will be listed as active members of your club. It also requires the district governor's approval. And there's appropriate charter fees and certification forms, and we'll go over some of that information on the next couple of slides. So as we move forward on creating, if we and go to the next slide, is we're creating a new club extension kits. LCI has some fabulous information out there to take a look at, and there's a couple in particular that I want to draw your attention to, and that's New Club Development Guide. Take a look at that one. That has got a wealth of information in it on what it would actually physically take to create your new club. We've already started laying the foundation by identifying our purpose and our vision statement and identifying our audience. Now we have to go through the physical aspect, physical steps in order to actually create our new specialty club. So you have Lions Club charter application. These are all required documentation, the charter member application, the charter application checklist. It will provide you a checklist of things that you need to take in consideration to make sure you have all the paperwork completed when you submit the request for a charter. And then it also graciously includes instructions for completing the application for the Lions Club charter. On the next page, we have additional information, or the next slide is the report of the charter members. That's one that is a required document that you do need to send in. And then it provides additional information on charter night planning. For those of you on the line that are established Lions, we know that once a year we celebrate the creation of our charter. Well, the charter night planning guide in this particular instance would be when the charter would be given to the club by the district governor coming in. On a timing on this one, you need to allow anywhere from 2 to 3 months at a minimum to receive your charter. It takes a little bit of processing. You can function as a club. You just won't be chartered until you receive your charter. So you'll be, you won't be able to be considered on the MyLCI until the charter is official. And then there's some additional information on better communities and changed lives. And this ties back to what we were talking about earlier about our vision statement and who do we want to reach out to. How do we want to go there? And it gives you some great ideas. And then the next one, Making It Happen, a guide to club project development. If you're kind of stuck on what kind of projects you want to start with, this may give you some new ideas. I would suggest that you print this one out, take a look at it prior to your first meetings so that you have some ideas that lead your prospective members through on some club projects, because you want to have those projects in place. You want to have something in place for members or new prospective members to do when they walk in the door. And it also gives some activities and some initiative to the new club to say, okay, these are the things we're going to do at least for the first 12 months, and then we'll reevaluate and we'll move forward accordingly. And then you have charter member transfer form. And it could be charter members that are coming in from another club. You can belong to more than one club. You're only a primary member of one, but you can be an associate member. And when you're starting up a new club, it does require primary club membership. You can join as an associate later on down the road if you're just helping out or a guiding lion. So these are the forms in creating a new club. So that's one way you can look at specialty clubs, is you're addressing a specific audience and then you go through the process of establishing a club like you would any other Lions Club. Now again, keep in mind the number that we need to have in place is 20 plus members. As we go to the next slide, there is another opportunity here that is creating a club branch. And I'm going to stop right here to address, do we have any questions out there?
I don't see any being displayed in the questions pane right now, Sharon, but I do have a question on just a clarification when you talked about the new club, having to have at least 20 charter members, and also needs to be sponsored. And you made a
Yes.
comment in your talk about, and that could be LCI accepts either a sponsoring club or a region, zone, district cabinet, or a district
Mhm.
committee. So a district cabinet or a zone, if there's not a particular club that wishes to sponsor the new club, whether it be specialty branch or a regular full charter club, you can go to the district cabinet or a zone or a district committee to sponsor that club. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
As long as it's recognized by the district. Now, the best approach, but I'm glad you brought that up, because the best approach, and I'm just going to give you my personal opinion on this one, is to have a club sponsor your new charter, your new potential specialty club.
Right.
There's a lot of value to having a club sponsor it, but the reason I bring up the others is if there isn't a club that's willing to sponsor your new specialty interest, they don't think the specialty club is going to fly, there are other avenues that you can pursue.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's why I brought up what I did. Your best bet is to find a sponsoring club, but in case that doesn't work out, there are workarounds.
Okay, and we do have a hand being raised here by Lion Nancy, so I'm going to unmute Lion Nancy and see what comment she has, okay? Let me see if this works.
Great. Lion Nancy.
Hey, my question is, if you have a club that sponsors the new club, do they also get a guiding lion also to help them to get the club up and going and running?
That's a really, really good question. Anytime you have a brand new club starting out, it's always a really excellent idea to have a guiding lion. And I did not mention that earlier, but yes, I would say in order to ensure that the club is successful, it would take a guiding lion. So it does involve, in our particular district, it does involve the inclusion of the district governor, because the guiding lion is generally assigned through the district governor in our multiple district in the Northwest.
And those guiding lions, it would be wonderful if they were certified guiding lions, going through that certified guiding lion course. And once you've gone through that course, you are fully qualified to be considered to be a guiding lion to a new club or a club that is maybe struggling along the way or something. But that's a good question you had there, Lion Nancy. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And go ahead, bud.
No, I just muted her, so we're good there. Okay.
Okay, just as an additional note, and Bud, thank you for bringing it up, is on guiding lions, when you do the certification, it's good for 2 years. And the reason it's only good for 2 years is that we want people to be current on the information that they will need to assist a club to build. When a guiding lion is assigned to a club, traditionally they are assigned to the club for a 2-year service in order to guide them through getting set up, making sure the reports are being taken care of, making sure they get good information about the 501(c)(3)s, the 501(c)(4)s, should they decide to pursue that avenue, and they are there to guide them through and answer Lions' questions to support them in the creation and making sure they have a successful club.
Right.
So Nancy, thank you very much for the question. If we have no others, we're going to move forward. We talked about setting up a club, and that's the more disciplined of the two options. The other is creating a club branch. Now, this will require a sponsoring club because a club branch, the members of the club branch are actually members of the sponsoring club. So you need, to create a club branch, you need a minimum of 5 branch members. You will be electing a branch president, secretary, and treasurer. A branch can be the same size, almost the same size as the sponsoring club. And they've decided that we've got some situations that I've run into during my years as being a Lion, where we've got some branch clubs that really like being a branch club and don't want to become a chartered club. And we'll talk more about that as they go through. But at a minimum, the positions you need to have for a club branch is a president and a secretary, at a minimum. And I'll explain why the treasurer is being left off here in just a minute. Sponsoring, you will need a sponsoring club, and it will require from the sponsoring club a branch liaison. Now, a lot of people will say from the branch is a liaison that goes back to the sponsoring club. It's the other way around. It's somebody from the sponsoring club that will attend the branch club meetings, again, to serve in the capacity and to bring information from the sponsoring club. The district governor needs to be informed, but does not necessarily have to approve. And you will need to complete notification form, club branch form number 1. Now, let me go back up to the second bullet where a branch, a president and a secretary. We have a situation here with one of our clubs here in the Northwest where we have a very, very active branch club, but they've decided they want primarily to handle service projects, to be able to give back to the community. They'll make money, but they don't want the responsibility of the money, so they turn all of their fundraising over to the sponsoring club. And the sponsoring club then keeps line items for, to separate the funding out where the money's brought in from the branch club. The branch club needs additional monies to purchase things to give back to the community, then they'll draw from the monies that they've drawn or made in the past. It works well for this club. It does require a little more bookkeeping in order to make that happen, but it can be done. But for sure, there needs to be a president and a secretary. Now, as we move forward to the next slide, in addition to as we're creating these branch clubs, is that we need to have in place, we're going to talk about best practices here, and I just talked about the treasurers. If you have a club branch, and we're going to assume for the sake of this class that you are going to have your own club branch treasurer, you need to set up a checking account or a bank account. It can be at the same bank that the sponsoring club is, but it will be maintained by the branch club, and the reporting and fiduciary responsibility will be handled by the branch club, the branch members. We need to create also, if you're going to function as a separate entity as a branch club, it gives you an opportunity to market your branch, your specialty club, in support of it. Like, say we have Club XYZ. I'm just going to say for the sake of it, we have Club, we'll just use Olympia. I don't have to remember the numbers. We have an Olympia club that's sponsoring a club branch, and the branch is specializing in medical professionals. So we may want to set up our marketing for this club branch for our specialty club, and we're out marketing throughout the community to all the medical professional folks and offering up an opportunity to be active in Lions. So our outreach in our community may just be around the medical profession or those businesses that would support the medical profession. Rather than, and the club would also, going back to the sponsoring club, let's take a step back, the club would also be reaching out to the community for how they can better serve the community and stuff, but they will put less emphasis on the medical profession because it's being handled by the club branch. So, but that leaves the rest of the industries out there for the sponsoring club to take a look at. So there's, you want to be able to set up your marketing. Consider a separate website. eClubhouse website from Lions International is an excellent, inexpensive, no charge way to set up your website. And or you could use an addendum on your sponsoring club. It can be done either way. It depends on what works best for the specialty branch that you're setting up, and create a Facebook. And the word of advice on lessons learned or best practices that I would pass on is your public facing is going to be what your potential members are going to be looking at. Make sure your social media sites are current. Actually display pictures of events once you start moving forward with your events. and making sure that your calendar of events are correct, and wherever your meetings are being held, make sure that information is current, so that people contacting that will know who to contact if they have additional questions and where they need to go to attend meetings.
Lion Sharon.
So yes.
I'm sorry. Lion Winster has made a comment here, and I think it's a rather valid one too. It says, as for the e-clubhouse, it's very important to include the sponsoring Lions Club information on the application for the website so we can be sure it is a real club.
That's an excellent point, and I didn't think to include that. So thank you very much for that. That's an excellent point.
That is.
Yes, it is. As we move forward, what we're going to be looking at on the next slide are all the pieces of information available out on LCI website, and I've given the numbers for all of the documents, is the report the branch membership. There is a club branch brochure that can help you kind of walk through, consider what it is you want to do. Your club officer's manual, which you didn't see in the previous one because they'll be taken care of through club officer training. On this one, because you have branch officers and you have secondary officers, you want to make sure that your officers are made aware of and that they actively participate in your district's club officer training, or that they participate in the online webinars being offered by LCI, or there's a third one coming, or that they participate in the club officer training available through Lions University. There's a club branch guide that you can go through. There is the ever important membership applications that we didn't post on the other one. And what I would recommend doing, in fact, let me give you an example of my brashness. We had our spring convention here this last weekend, and we had the mayor of Olympia was one of our keynote speakers. And when she was introduced, there was a little joke made that she was an active member of Rotary, very active in the community and what have you. And as she got done, she said, I so appreciate what Lions do. You know, there has been a thought about becoming a Lion. Well, I just happened to have an application in my purse, and I happened to pull it out and walked up to the stage, and I said, I'd be happy to sponsor you when the time's available, and gave her my business card. And there was a big laugh about it, and I said, anytime you get tired of the other club, we'd welcome you with open arms. And I was grinning from ear to ear when I said it, but she took it in good humor, and she actually contacted me. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to set up a meeting and see if we can make this happen. So you just never know. You just have to take advantage of those things. And then as a branch club, you do need to, as a club branch, I get those turned around. As a club branch, you do need to be aware of the Constitution and bylaws. And as a specialty club, these are some of the architecture, or this is the infrastructure things that you just need to be cognizant of. And once you are aware of these things, then it will take up very little of your time, and you can spend a majority of your time working in your specialty field, doing service projects and encouraging new members to come in. But you are responsible for what the Lions Club's Constitution and bylaws do hold. If you're in a district, you might also want to work with a sponsoring club or your district governor to see if there are additional district constitution and bylaws rules that you need to be aware of. And then there's a great little flyer out there called Lions Make a Difference. It's a good one for specialty clubs. It'd be a good one to help you put your marketing together to grow your membership. And then you have the notification of club branch and officer updates, and those are forms, and you can actually include that in MyLCI. If you are not aware of, in MyLCI, when you have a club branch separating, kind of breaking off and making their own entity under the umbrella of a sponsoring club, the club branch members are listed in MyLCI as club branch members. So we have a situation here where we have a community of Yelm. And in Yelm, we have a very active club branch that meets at noon. All of the members from both the Yelm Club and the club branch are all listed under the sponsoring club of Yelm. But if I go in and look at the membership, those involved in the club branch are listed as such. So I can go in and run a membership report and be able to quickly distinguish who's a sponsoring club member and who is a member of the club branch. So you can gain access to that, but you need to make sure you put it in that way. So let's keep moving forward, because we've got the legit, we've got the architecture, we've got the foundation of the things that we need to do, and I want to stop as we did with the end of the charter. Are there any additional questions on club branch right now, as far as what we need to know or how we need to set it up?
Right. Before we move on to the next slide, Lion Nancy had another question. She asks, does the branch club get its own EIN number, and do they have to file a 990 IRS yearly?
Really good question, Nancy. If you are maintaining your own books, you have your own treasurer, you have your own bank account, then the answer is yes, because it's separate from the sponsoring club. If you are submitting your monies and all the monies are being maintained by the sponsoring club, then the answer is not necessary. You would file both your income and your taxes through the sponsoring club.
Right.
I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. It makes sense.
Okay, really good questions.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. Once we've created our club and we have it in place, what do we need to do to maintain it? And there's going to be some coordination required, and I'm going to have to give it to you in a couple different approaches. If you have a specialty club and you are an independent club, not under the umbrella of a sponsoring club, then you will need to file your monthly reports, your monthly membership reports in MyLCI, and I can't encourage you enough to enter in your service activity reports, to brag about and talk about the activities you're doing and the number of volunteer hours you're doing, or donations or collections. Could be collections of monies or collections of canned food products or donated to a food bank. An example would be we collected 2,000 pounds of food, and all of it was donated to our local community food bank. It's a great thing to enter in and say we had, and during this collection we had 9 members donating a total of 90 hours. Those are the types of things that LCI is looking for, and those are good statistics to start sharing with prospective new members on what are you really doing for our community. The other thing is make sure that you've got current and active, before we move on to MyLCI, the challenge will be, let me rephrase that, the opportunity will be that if you have a branch or a club branch, your monthly membership reports will be handled by the sponsoring club. Your service activity reports will be entered in by the sponsoring club secretary unless you've the branch has entered into a partnership with the sponsoring club secretary to be able to insert their own service activity reports. So you will have a responsibility to coordinate with your sponsoring club secretary to make sure that your service activity reports are going in, the effort that the branch is doing is being accounted for, and making sure that your club branch members' information is current and correct. So it's either a coordinated effort with the sponsoring club secretary, or if you are your own club, then you will have to make sure that you enter in this information. Your club secretary will do this. So on your current and active projects, if you want to build your membership, and you want to not only build your membership to have people come in the door excited and enthused, as we talked about earlier, we also want them to stay. So you need to set up, both as a branch and as even working with a sponsoring club, as your branch or your specialty club, you're going to have to visit frequently, and I would say probably twice a year once you get started. You may have to do a touch point quarterly to make sure that your projects and the opportunities are current. Because people need something to do when they walk in the door, and if they don't have anything to do, as we know, the most precious commodity that our new members bring in the door is their time. And if their time is not being well used, unfortunately, there are many other service clubs that will be more than happy to welcome them. So we need to have something for them to do and making sure that it still represents what we're set up originally as our specialty club. Does that make sense? I'm hoping so.
I think it does.
Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Once we're maintaining, then we need to look at the future, and we just kind of addressed that a minute ago. On the annual, we need to do an annual reevaluation purpose. For those of us in Lions, we keep hearing the words we need to do kind of strategic planning on an annual basis. And some of us are better at it than others. Some of us are fine with doing it every other year or probably every 2 years. I probably wouldn't let it go any longer than that because the face of your club and the community changes dramatically within that period of time. So you want to reevaluate why, your purpose, and if you are a specialty club, you want to make sure that you can continue as a specialty and still stay current with the members that you have, still stay current with your community, so that you are reaching out and providing a service and you are ultimately the come-to group when they need some help or assistance, and they're centered around your specialty club. The same thing holds true with the branch, with a club branch. Just because you're a branch, you can hold your own strategic planning session. You do not have to do your planning at the same time as your sponsoring club because your needs are basically different. Even though you are one big membership, the needs of the members are distinctively different, or could be quite significantly different. So you plan to hold your branch club strategic planning sessions, or if you are a chartered special interest club or a specialty club, then revisit. Because you are a specialty club, you're in a niche market, and you want to make sure that niche is still current. And what do you need to do? What's changing in that market that you may need to change your public facing to make sure that you still are enticing members to come in the door so that we can give back. And then your marketing and public relations, as we mentioned earlier, the marketing and public relations you've got to maintain currency on this. And I don't mean that in a financial point of view. Your information has to be current. And the best comments that I'm getting from Lions Club is going to a variety of different conventions is I keep hearing people like seeing themselves, or they like seeing pictures of activities. We can have the world's best writers and authors, and they're good at what they do, but they're not as impactful as pictures of people doing community service projects, the smiles on people's faces when they get to see for the first time, or they hear and they get new hearing aids and they can hear again. Or we've saved somebody's life because they've passed through diabetes checks, and we've just elevated them right to the emergency room because of how they tested out. These are all some things where you look at an environmental project and you stand back and you look at the pride of you've either weeded a garden, you've got a community garden going, and with education and youth programs, I could go on forever. But these are the types of things you want to capture those pictures. So the one thing you need to take to every event, regardless of whether you are a specialty a specialty club or a club branch, is that camera. Make sure you capture those events and post them. When you post the pictures, the one thing that process improvement that we need to get better at is when you post the picture in the comments column, tell the story about the picture. Who's in it, what you're doing. So when people pull those pictures out independently, they know it's a community project and they know what the community project was. So again, with marketing and public relations, go back and revisit your materials. I would, as you initially start up, I would not do bulk printing for a while because you may be undergoing some changes. But do take advantage of home printers and until you get monies in the bank and can afford to do some outsourcing, and have people possibly give you a discount on the reproduction processes. But take a look at that, market yourself, revisit that information. Marketing is critical. There's not a marketer out there that I'm aware of that if they go once and they don't go back and revisit frequently to make sure they're still approaching the right audience. And then lastly, on the future, you have got to identify projects. Now, these are projects that can be, as I call the low-hanging fruit projects, that can be right now or in the next month, or they can be long-term projects that have a little more girth to them that you need to do a little longer planning. And the last thing I forgot to put on this slide is partnerships. If you are doing a specialty club or a specialty branch, one of the things you need to think about in the future is the partnerships you can enter into with other Lions clubs or other community organizations, either for private sector or for other service organizations, to create a community-based project. So those are the things for the future, is making sure that we've talked, as we go to the next slide, we've talked about next steps, and it's kind of my company mantra, is go forth and do great things. But make sure you have a good vision statement. Make sure you revisit it, because with specialty clubs, again, you are in a niche market. And it doesn't make any difference if it's a well-established market, such as the medical profession. We talked about first responders. We talked about funeral directors and other. Those are definitely niche markets. But you want to make sure that your information is current. And most importantly, over anything else, is have fun. Because if you're not having fun, quite frankly, why are you doing it? And are there any questions? And next steps, one of the other things that I want to include is, now that you have the information, evaluate your opportunity for creating one or more specialty clubs to meet your community needs and grow your membership. Is, again, you can have more than one specialty club. And you need 20 plus members, or you can do a club branch, and you can have more than one club branch. Each one a separate specialty. We've got one that's possibly getting ready to be created with my home club, and we've just identified where people just realized there's a lot of quilters in our club. And we also have Joint Base Lewis McChord right north of us, right in our district, and they're making quilts for the kids and the significant others of active service people, and they're looking at doing it there. And they're also looking at, we also are supporting a battered women's shelter, and they're providing quilts and blankets for that group too. So, and they've decided they want to come together and talk over quilting, plan their service projects, and be able to be their own independent Lions club branch. So the opportunities are only limited by what you can think of. Are there any questions?
We do have one from Lion Don. What do you think of cyber campus Lions clubs made up of primarily graduated Leos?
I think it's an awesome idea. One, you keep the Leos active, and that's an excellent opportunity. It's a good application for a cyber club. You can set up, they can communicate through today's technology, and as far as projects or things to do, if they are graduates and they've moved away from the campus, there may be something they may have to sponsor online through either monetary donation or donations of other sorts. Or there could be a local effort that where they identified while they were at a particular university and decide to become active where they can to support that particular or a local community organization. But it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that is. Good idea.
And go ahead.
No, I don't. I just said I thought it was a great idea. Yeah.
The cyber clubs, I hope I've addressed the question, Don. The way you would set up, The cyber clubs offer a little further challenge because one word you threw in there was the remoteness of it. You may want to look at the creation of a chapter or a club all by yourself. You know, that it's a cyber club, and then come together, maybe meet once a year for a big event or a particular community thing that you're going to be, project that you're going to be working on. You may want to consider that source. The challenge you may run into, although I don't see it being a showstopper, is to find the sponsoring club, to sponsor a cyber club branch. If we went to the district governor, we're probably talking more about a club than a club branch. The club branch absolutely requires a sponsoring club.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of options to think about, but I think it's an absolutely incredible idea.
Right. I do too. Okay.
Any other questions?
I didn't see any.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. And Bud, Lion Bud, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. You want to just cover your, you don't have anything else you want to comment on the review of your objectives, make sure we covered everything, but I think you have. I think you covered everything.
I think we have. Well, and I'll be happy to do that. We define the specialty clubs. What is it we want to do? How, what is it, our end result, and kind of why we're doing it. We're identifying the value of the specialty club is what do we want to give back? What value are we giving back to the community? And just as importantly is what value is there for the members to become a part of that specialty club? Mm-hmm. We talked about the actual steps it would take to create that specialty club through the LCI information that's available. And then maintaining, that's the ongoing work. This is a living, breathing opportunity, be it a club branch or be it a charter. It's living and breathing and will require constant care and feeding. It's not a one-time deliverable on the shelf. And then making sure that we set it up, set the future up to ensure that it stays a viable club. So we're going to have to, on a regular basis, to be determined by the club members, to make sure that our specialty club is still viable in our community. We're still reaching out. There is still a community that needs or that would surround our club, and that to make sure that we can continue to add members to it. The critical part is we can build it, and we can start it with a handful of members, but we need to have additional members coming in the door to ensure that it has a future. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about next steps is just go forth and make it happen.
That is terrific. So, we covered a lot for the specialty clubs, and you even went into club branch and what it would take for specific types of clubs. And there are a lot of specialty clubs out there, and several cyber clubs now are beginning to come into existence, and as I said, the ethnic clubs are really strong in the northeastern part of Illinois, and they're very, very valuable to their communities and to the causes that they seem fit. So I think we covered a lot of information. I really appreciate the work you put into this, Lion Sharon, and again, congratulations on your election to second vice district governor. We hope that goes smoothly for you.
Well, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the finishing slides. We already covered it. I threw that little guy in there. You had questions on there, but I thought I had this from some other slide. And I thought he was kind of a neat little guy, so I put that in there.
I like him.
So we pretty well covered the questions, but the next thing would be to let everyone know that in Grand Rapids, we had our first graduation ceremony for Lions University, and we'll have our second graduation ceremony in Omaha, Nebraska this September at the USA Canada Lions Leadership Forum, the 15th and 17th through September. And if you have qualified to graduate from either the bachelor or master's program, you can receive your graduation certificate at the ceremony that will be held. I think it's going to be on Friday evening of the early Friday evening of the forum, And as we did last year, we will have the current Lions International president there at the ceremonies, and everyone walking across the stage picking up their pins and their certificates. They'll also have a picture taken an individual picture taken with the international president. So please plan to complete your courses if you're in that level, and we look forward to seeing you in Omaha in September for the graduation ceremonies. Our next webinar will be May 3rd for the master's program. It will be Tuesday, May 3rd, and it will be entitled Campus Clubs. So we will be having a webinar strictly on campus clubs. So a lot of the information we shared tonight, there'll be some other new information specific to campus clubs shared with everyone during that webinar. So be sure to join us at that point in time too as well. A reminder that the quiz is up and running on this course 234. And you can do that by going on to the Lions University website, into the master's program, and clicking on the quiz, or clicking on this particular course, specialty clubs, course number 234, and then going down to the bottom of the page and clicking on course completed, and that will take you directly to the quiz. And there's 10 questions. I took it tonight and passed it. So if I could pass it, I think everyone here could pass it, because the information was great, and it was a good quiz put together. So I want to thank you for that. I think at this point in time, anyone who wishes to leave, now's the time to leave. And when you do, please go up to the top of the control panel on your screen there and click on the little X on the corner of the control panel box. That will get you out of the webinar. And then if for some reason you don't get out in time, we'll have you dismissed, and so we can get out of the program and clear out the webinar. So with that, I would thank you again, Lion Sharon, for everything you've done. And if you want to hold on after everyone leaves, we'll go over a couple of things, and we'll wrap it up. So with that, we hope to see everyone during next month's program, and also check the courses that might be available on the bachelor program and the master's program that have already been held. You can go on to those courses and review the recording, and then go on that particular course and click on course completed, and you can go right to the quiz there too as well. So there's a lot of information yet available on the webinar. So thank you very much, and we will see you later.
Thank you.
All right, hold on, and when everyone's gone here, we'll finish up a couple of things, and then we'll be completed.
Bud, do you have as much problem remembering to say club branch versus branch club?
Oh yeah, I do.
Boy, I stumbled on that at least 3 or 4 times.
Well, it's just normal to say it the one way, rather than the correct way. I guess it's all, everyone knows what you're talking about. It's just a matter of doing
right.
The accepted way, I guess. But we've got 2 more here that are leaving.
Yeah, we got 1 more.
Yeah, I had to dismiss.
There we go.
I had dismissed the last 6 or 7 because they were still hanging on. So, okay, that went pretty well, and a lot of good questions or comments too. That was really nice to see. Sometimes people don't get involved; they just sit there and listen and don't participate. But it was good to get that participation tonight. Oh, you know what? I think I forgot.
Good.
I need to stop recording.